Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering sealed deck building exercise. Today we're taking another look at the Dragons of Tarkir sealed format, and I want to thank Bryce Nelson yet again for sending me these boosters so I could make this video. So last time I said that the sealed format was 4 and 2, but actually it is 3 Dragons of Tarkir and 3 Fate Reforged boosters. So the last video was actually right, because we did 3 and 3 there. But yeah, let's get this started with a Fate Reforged booster. And as usual, I'm going to sort all the cards by color first. And then we can take a look at each color individually once we opened all the boosters. So in our first pack, Fate Reforged, we open a Grim Contest, Dragon Bell Monk, Rakshasa's Disdain, Gurmag Angler. The Delve cards did get better because now there's a lot fewer Delve cards running around, so the ones you do have are more important. And then we've got a Sultai Runemark, Abzan Runemark. Runemarks not being very exceptional. Let's maybe get a little zoom action going. And then we've got a Greathorn Cruciok, Bathe in Dragonfire, solid removal spell, Frontier Mastodon, Defiant Ogre. Let's get these in the correct Wooburg order. Then we've got a Humble Defector as our uncommon, a Reality Shift, and a Fearsome Awakening. And our rare is a Mardu Strike Leader, so very good rare in Limited. I've also tried to play them in Constructed with varying degrees of success. Alright, and we even got the Warrior token to go along with it. And a Bloodfell Caves, and the fixing is important in this format because you don't get a lot of it. So the fixing you do get in the Fate Reforged booster will often determine what cards you end up playing. Let's open up a Dragons of Tarkir booster now, just to mix it up a little. And we open a Hardened Berserker, a Sandstorm Charger, Kolagon Skirmisher, Kolagon Aspirant, Mystic Meditation, Anok Artillerist, Ancestral Statue, Soundcrafter Mage, Ojutai's Breath, Sprinting Warbrute, Learn from the Past, Stormwind Dragon, Strongarm Monk, and our rare is a Harbinger of the Hunt, so pretty awesome rare. And a Mountain, alright. So yeah, would definitely like to play the big rare dragon we opened. Alright, let's open up another Fate Reforged booster here, where we have yet another Gurmag Angler, another Sultai Runemark, another Abzan Runemark, alright, Aven Surveyor, Ancestral Vengeance, Frontier Mastodon, Alesha's Vanguard, Defiant Ogre, Whisperer of the Wilds, Pilgrim of the Fires, a Light Form, a Shockmaw Dragon, And our rare is a Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. So not too exciting. And we got a Foil Mountain. Pretty shiny. And another Bloodfell Caves, which is quite relevant here. Alright. Let's move on to another Dragons of Tarkir booster. Would love to open some Dragon Lords. Instead we open a Dragon Fodder, a Glaring Aegis, Marsh Hulk, Loose Calm, a Tarka Beast Breaker, Anticipate, Silumgar Butcher, Custodian of the Trove, another Sandcrafter Mage, which is pretty good, Taigam's Strike, uncommon number 1 is a Tarka Pummeler, Beltol Dragon, Self-Inflicted Wound, and our rare is a Mystic Myth Realized rather. Alright. And a Swamp. So I'm not sure what our best colors are so far, but maybe some sort of a red, green, black deck. Alright, let's open our last Fatally Forged booster. Where we have Arshan Cleric, Whiskaway, Sipsig Host, Sultai Skullkeeper, Sandblast, Jeskai Sage to go in the Exploit deck, Formless Nurturing, Sandstep Outcast, Temur Battle Rage, Hunt the Weak, Mimescour Dragon, Friendly Fire, Pyrotechnics, which is an excellent uncommon, and our rare is a Crux of Fate. Alright, pretty sweet. And a Dismal Backwater. Alright, time for the last Dragons of Tarkir booster. So yeah, black, red and maybe green look very powerful so far. Let's see if that changes with an Aven Tactician, Hand of Silumgar, Scream Reach Brawler, Resupply, Updraft Elemental, a Dragon Scarred Bear, another Sandcrafter Mage, Duress, Shape the Sands, Ojutai's Summons. Nope. We get a Roast for uncommon, another very good one. A Scale of Blessing. We get an Autarka Monument, which can also help us maybe splash a color. And our rare is a Profaner of the Dead. Alright. Cool, so now that we've opened all our boosters, I think I would like to go over each color, maybe separate the playables from the unplayables, so we've got a little less cards we have to work with. And once we sorted out each color, we can maybe look at some color combinations and take a look at how the decks shape up. Looking at our fixing, we opened 2 Bloodfell Caves and a Dismal Backwater. as well as the Tarkir monument. So I think that's the only real fixing we got. I think we didn't even get any fixing in green, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, no fixing. So if we want to play 3 colors, then we'll have to look at these cards. Otherwise, it's probably gonna be just a 2-color deck, maybe with a light splash. Alright, so let's get started here in white. Scale Blessings not really very good unless you really have a lot of bolster going on, so I'll put it on the side for now. Soundcrafter Mage is very good on the other hand, just if you play him on its own, it's a 3/3 for 3, which is pretty good. So definitely a good card. Resupply is on the slower end of things, and I would not really want to main deck this card. So maybe in the sideboard against a very grindy matchup, you could maybe get this in there, but I would avoid it. Even Tactician's fine. Sandstep Outcast is very good. Sound Blast is pretty good as well. Arashing Cleric, more of a sideboard card against aggro decks. Myth Realized is an interesting one, and I do think it's playable. It's usually not going to be super great, but even getting like a 3/3 attacking in there can be pretty good. So I don't hate it. Another Soundcrafter Mage is good. A Glaring Aegis can be playable in a more aggressive deck, but Sealed usually tends to be on the slower end of things. So I think it can still make the deck in a more aggressive shell, but if we're going a bit more mid-rangey or controlling, then this is not really the card you want. Lightform is pretty good. Abzan Rumark is not really playable. Strong Arm Monk can be playable. Not exceptional, but still decent, especially if you have maybe some tokens going on. Another Sandcrafter Mage, so we did get a couple of these. Sandstorm Charger is definitely playable. Great Horn Khrushchev is somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's definitely not an exciting card, and I would avoid main decking it, so I'll put it on the side for now, but if we need more playables, I could see playing this guy. Rumark, get out of there. And Dragon Bell Monk is certainly playable in the right deck. Alright, so white looks pretty deep actually. We have a lot of good 3-drops. A lot of Sands, Crafter Mage, and Sandstep Outcast is also pretty good. So, alright, we've got a solid creature base here in white. So we maybe need some more removal spells and maybe some bombs we can play. So yeah, maybe white, even if it's a solid color, it doesn't have pretty much any removal other than Sandblast. And it doesn't really have very bomby cards. It doesn't have big dragons or powerful rares, maybe other than Myth Realized. So yeah, white looks decent, but I'm actually doubtful we'll end up playing it just because of how the cards are divided here. Let's move over to blue, where we have a Profaner of the Dead. Certainly a very powerful rare. We've got Ojutai Summons, which is very playable. Updraft Elemental is playable, although not really any card to write home about. Mindscour Dragon is fine. 4/4 Flyer Dragons for 6 are decent. I think the Megamorph ones from Dragons of Tarkir are a bit more powerful, especially in Sealed, where you usually get some more time. Jeskai Sage very powerful in the exploit decks, although we did not see a ton of exploit cards. Sultai Skullkeeper playable if you really need a 2-drop, otherwise I would avoid it, so I'll put it on the side for now. Whisk Away is certainly a fine card. Another Beltol Dragon here, and this is the Megamorph Dragon I was talking about. So you need 7 mana to Megamorph this guy, but if you do, you get a 4/4 Flying Hexproof guy, and you get to put the counter on all other dragon creatures you control, so maybe not very relevant, but the Hexproof certainly is. Then a Taigam's Strike, so can be decent in a more aggressive deck, I think, which sealed usually tends not to be, but certainly playable. Anticipate is also pretty good in sealed, especially just because you have more time to draw into your powerful cards, and this helps you do exactly that. Even Surveyor is very good, gaining you a lot of tempo, getting a flyer in play and returning an opponent's creature, especially now with all the bolster going on, all those +1/+1 counters. If you can bounce the creature, you can gain a lot of advantage. Learn from the Past is not a playable card. Ojutai's Breath is decent in a more aggressive deck. Mystic Meditation here is, I guess, decent in a more slow, grindy matchup. I don't know if it's quite good enough to main deck, but I'll put it in the playable pile for now. Reality Shift is good, but not great. I think in sealed he gets a bit better than in draft, just because people tend to have more powerful rares that you really need to get rid of, while in draft people tend to have more streamlined aggressive decks, and then giving them a 2/2 is a pretty big downside. While if you can get rid of a powerful bomb, then Reality Shift might be worth including. And Rakshasa's Disdain is not really a card I'm looking to play, so put it on the side. Alright, so let's take a look at blue as a whole here. We have some powerful dragons, some decent rares, I would say, so a lot of flyers in blue. So I could see playing blue. There's not really something that like excites me a lot, maybe other than the Profaner, which can be very swingy. I would like to play with Aven Surveyor and Anticipate, but there's not really like a card that I really have to play in blue, but certainly a decent support color. Alright, let's move over to black, where we have a Duress, which I don't think you really main deck in sealed, even though it could grab a removal spell from the opponent. There's just too many times where it's just gonna be a blank card to just look at the opponent's hand and see all their powerful red-green creatures that you're gonna die to. So I don't really like main decking Duress, but can be a very powerful sideboard option. Hand of Silumgar is a solid 2-drop, can trade up quite a bit and can also beat down if he wants to. Crux of Fate, a very powerful card. Being able to have a sweeper in sealed is just the best you can have, because people usually won't play around this unless they've seen it in a previous game, so they will probably just overextend into it and you can get a 3 or 4 for 1 pretty easily. The fact that it doesn't destroy dragons and non-dragons can be a downside, but can also be a benefit if you build your deck around it. Then Sipsig Hosts, not really an exciting card, but I guess if you have a few Delph cards, this can be playable if you need that 2/6 blocker, but I would not really be excited to play it. Self-Inflicted Wound is a very good sideboard card, but you're not going to main deck this. We've got Silumgar Butcher, which is one of the few exploit cards we have, but it's a pretty good one, certainly playable. Marsh Hulk is also a decent Megamorph guy. Just play him as a morph early, trade with it if you need the block, or late in the game he can just be a pretty big creature that can win the game. Alesha's Vanguard is not really very exciting, but can be like your last card if you need more playables. Ancestral Vengeance is not great either, but if you really need removal against maybe an aggressive deck, I could see siding this in, but I'm gonna put it on the side for now. Sultai Rune Mark's not really where you want to be. There's just too many removal spells that can get you a 2 for 1. Then Gurmag Angler, certainly very good, again because there's not very many Delph cards. I think Gurmag Angler is one of the few, so having access to a few of them is pretty decent, since your graveyard is otherwise unexploited, to say the least. Then we've got Cologan Skirmisher, which if you need a 2-drop is a 2-drop, but otherwise maybe more for the aggressive decks. Marduk Strike Leader is a very powerful card and goes very well in an aggressive deck. Can also just be decent just on its own, so certainly excited to play him. We've got Fearsome Awakening, which is not really a card I want to play unless I've got a lot of dragons and I'm expecting a lot of removal. Another Sultai Runemark and another Gurmag Angler. Alright, so black does look pretty exciting. We've got 2 Gurmag Anglers along with Marduk Strike Leader and Crux of Fate. But black is not very deep. If you look at the cards, there's like a sideboard card in here. There's, there's quite a few cards that I'm not really excited to play, like Cologan Skirmisher and Alesha's Vanguard. So maybe black can be like our secondary color and next to another one. But I'm certainly excited to play these first 4-5 cards. So black looking pretty good. Now let's move to red, which looks pretty deep. And Roast is certainly a very powerful card that you're always going to main deck. Scream Reach Brawler is decent, not exciting, but certainly a role player. Pyrotactics, on the other hand, is just awesome. It's the sort of uncommon that could be a rare just because it's so powerful. Friendly Fire is not playable. Temur Battle Rage can be alright in an aggressive deck. Certainly if you have big creatures like Gurmag Anglers or maybe some big green cards, this gets a lot better. So I'll put it in the playable pile for now. A Tarkir Pummeler is very, very good. Just finishes games thanks to its formidable. A Loose Calm is not really a card I'm looking to main deck. Maybe in an aggressive deck, but I'm not really a fan. Dragon Fodder is pretty good. Gives you some 1/1s to either exploit or just trade with 2-drops. Or you later in the game you just can have a bunch of chump blockers to buy time while you maybe attack with flyers. So just a versatile card. Shockmaw Dragon is one of the better dragons from Fate Reforged, just because it actually does something when it deals combat damage. So a pretty powerful effect. We've got a Defiant Ogre, which is more of a sideboard card if you see an artifact that you really have to destroy, but there's not very many, so I'll put it on the side for now. Stormwing Dragon is pretty powerful. A 3/3 First Striker is not great, but if you can Megamorph him and have a 4/4 First Striker that can also fly, then he's probably gonna dominate the skies. So definitely excited to have him. Sprinting Warbrute is sort of a repeatable Lava Axe. So in an aggressive deck I can see playing this guy. Otherwise it's not really what you want to be doing, just because he has to attack each turn so the opponent can set up profitable blocks. And then we've got Cologan Aspirant, which is a solid little 2-drop. We've got Hardened Berserker, which is another very good 3-drop. Humble Defector, which can have some combos. I don't think we picked up any collateral damages or that type of card. So it's not gonna be awesome, but I mean it's still a 2/1 for 2 that if you really have to, you can use to draw 2 cards. So probably playable. Another Defiant Ogre, and Bathe in Dragonfire, a solid removal spell. Alright, so red looks pretty deep and pretty powerful. We've got some good removal spells in Roast and Bathe in Dragonfire, some solids 2 and 3 drops, some dragons here at the higher end. So I'm pretty excited to try and play red. We even got the Pyrotechnics and the Tarkir Pummeler, so yeah, red looks very, very good. And I would be surprised if we don't end up playing it. Alright, let's move over to our last mono color, which is green, where we have a Shape the Sands, which is not really what you want to be doing in sealed. So more of a sideboard card if you really need that reach ability, if perhaps the opponent has a lot of flyers and you don't. Then we've got a Dragon-Scarred Bear, which is a very solid 3-drop. Hunt a Week, a solid removal spell. Formless Nurturing I would avoid playing. Just a 3/3 for 4 is not that exciting, but can be like your last card if you need more playables. A Tarkir Beastbreaker is pretty good. Just a 2/2 for 2 with a powerful ability in the late game. Whisperer of the Wilds, giving some ramp, can be very good. Frontier Mastodon, solid. Enoch Artillerist I would avoid playing, just because it's pretty easy for the opponent to just trade with a 2-drop, and you don't want to be trading down. But perhaps if you need the power for Formidable, then I guess you could play him. And another Frontier Mastodon. Alright, so green looks decent. Some powerful Formidable cards and some solid 3-drops. Whisper of the Wild's pretty powerful if we're trying to ramp up. Hunt a Week's fine, but not like it doesn't have a ton of removal, just a Hunt a Week. So I don't know if this is quite deep enough to be paired with red, but I guess we'll find out. Then let's take a look at our land here. Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. Probably not going to play this even if we have a bunch of dragons, but if we're like 2 colors and our mana base is good enough, I could see maybe playing this if you have a few dragons. Then we have some powerful cards here in Harbinger of the Hunt. Very, very powerful, can sweep the board on the ground and in the skies. And a Grim Contest, which is pretty powerful, especially with those Gurmag Anglers. And then our artifacts are a Custodian of the Trove, which I guess you could play if you need an additional blocker against an aggressive deck, but I'm not really looking to main deck this guy. And we've got a Pilgrim of the Fires, which is not very exciting, just 7 mana. You could be megamorphing a dragon at that point, and the megamorphs are a lot more versatile. And an Ancestral Statue, so when he enters the battlefield, return a non-land permanent to his owner's hand. Can be beneficial with cards with Enter the Battlefield abilities, and it's a 3/4 for 4, so I think he's playable, but I don't think he's great. Alright, so let's see. I think the first decks we want to try are going to involve black, red and green. Again, we do have Bloodfell Caves for fixing, so black and red are probably going to be among the colors we end up playing. And we also have this Tarkir Monument. So I think we'll start with maybe a red-black splash green deck, or a green-red splash red deck, or I don't know. We'll just take a look at the Junt colors here and try and build a deck, and I'll report to you once I'm finished. Alright, so I've just put all the good playable black, red and green cards here according to their curve to try and determine what our 2 main colors should be and what our splash color should be. And if we look at the curve, we notice that the green cards are pretty much only the 2 and 3 drops here, and then 1 powerful Harbinger of the Hunt and a Hunt a Week, maybe also a Grim Contest. So the green is on the cheaper end of things. So if we do want to play green, it can't really be our splash color if we want to play these cheap cards. So I don't think green is actually strong enough to merit an inclusion compared to either black or red. Because in black and red, red just looks like our best color here, because it gives us Roast, Bathed in Dragonfire, Pyrotechnics, and some very powerful dragons. So I definitely think red should be in the deck. And then comparing black and green to determine what our second color should be. Black just gives us some very, very powerful cards like Gurmag Angler. It gives us Crux of Fate, which is actually the main reason why I would like to play black. Because we do have a bunch of dragons, so we could even use the Destroy All Non-Dragons mode while having dragons in play, which is just very, very powerful. So if we want to play black with Crux of Fate, which is double black, it can't really be a splash color. So I think we just want to remove the green and just keep it as a splashed color. Now the question is, do we keep the Hunt a Week and the Grim Contest or not? And I think Hunt a Week and Grim Contest are pretty good in this deck, just because we do have quite a few high toughness creatures. So if we take a look at the 2-drops, yeah, I think we can pretty easily cut the Kolaghan Skirmisher, being a pretty weak card overall. Then taking a look at our 3-drops and our Megamorphs, we have a Marsh Hulk, a Stormwing, a Dragon, Hardened Berserker, and a Scream Reach Brawler. Brawler is probably the weakest out of these, but he's still pretty good, so I don't think we cut any of our 3-drop creatures. Looking at our 4-drops, this is actually 5-drop. I do consider Gormag Angler as a 4-drop because usually you can at least delve for 3, and later in the game he can sometimes just be cast for single black, letting you play 2 powerful cards in the same turn. And Mardu Strike Leader, you're almost always going to dash this guy out, at least the first few times. So yeah, these all look pretty good to me. And I think 2 Gormag Anglers, we can still support them. Then the 5-drops, we have a Silumgar Butcher, good with exploit with cards like Dragon Fodder, and just an additional removal spell. Then the Harbinger is just too powerful not to play, and the Pummeler is also very, very good. So I think we want to play all of these. And then a Shockmaw Dragon I think is a good finisher. So I don't think we cut any of these cards. Maybe the Humble Defector. So let's see, and this is 22 playables and then 18 lands. I think that's good enough. So I think for these 3 green cards we need about 3 or 4 green sources. We already have 1 in the monument, so we would need maybe 2 more. I think we need slightly more red because we have more red in the early game. I think 8 mountains, 6 swamps should be enough. So yeah, I think this is probably the deck I would go with. We could look at a white deck here, but like, to be honest, there's just not any removal spells here that I would really want to play. In blue, there's nothing too exciting. So I'm pretty sure that this Junt configuration here is the most powerful. We have a lot of removal: Roast, Grim Contest, Bathe, Hunt a Week, Pyrotechnics, Crux of Fate, and even Silumgar Butcher. We have a lot of bombs, we have dragons, we have Megamorphs, we have Gormag Anglers. So I'm pretty confident that this is close to the optimal build of this sealed pool. So I'm just not going to bother to make the blue-white deck, because I just don't think it's going to be anywhere near as powerful as this deck is. And we just also don't have the fixing for it. The only other fixing card we had is a Dismal Backwater. And blue-black does not look like a combination that's as powerful as black-red. So I think I'm just going to wrap it up here. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a nice day.